to still have you here with us today. I cannot believe that we're still going strong. If you've been with us the whole day, amazing. So glad you're still here. We're still rocking at more than 700 people, and so just really excited to have you guys be part of this day with us. I hope you did some great experimenting. I got to hang out in the different rooms. So it's kind of nice. I mean, I got to hang out and see other people work. So, but it's back to working on our next session, which is the Innovate session, which is so much about, so we've learned in the morning, right? We built some of that capacity. We learned more about prompting. Maybe you picked up a good technique with Joe or a little bit from my keynote. You saw that amazing showcase. And if you missed any of this because of time zones, everything is on demand until like September. So you can always come back and watch. The next thing after we built that capacity, we started looking at how to experiment. So you guys got to use some of the leading tools right now, and which is amazing. So I hope you got to see how to build slides. You have Adobe Express in building images. You got to see how to create sidekicks and student-facing chats. And so that's really awesome. And then now this is the moment. This is the moment. We talked about this. Our ultimate goal of all of those pieces is to build our capacity, start experimenting so that we can start reimagining teaching and learning. We can no longer have a system that's over 100 years old, everybody, where kids sit in desks in rows. One of my favorite things I did is I actually went to ChatGPT and said, hey, build me images of the future classroom. And you know what happened? Every single image had kids in rows and desks with a teacher at the front. And whether they had AR, VR glasses or whatever, that's not what we want. We do not want to reinforce existing practice with this transformational technology. We want to reimagine and meet the needs of our students of all kinds. So this is our first part of this, is our Innovate Ed Talks, and I'm really excited to have some thought leaders with me today and some recorded videos. Then we'll have a little bit of time for that last break of the day before you're going to get to work as well. We can talk, Pat can talk and Zombie and myself, but realistically, it is so important that you take this back to your context, where you live, where you work, where you teach, where you lead. And so that's our ultimate goal. You're going to do that with Ivan and Corey before we have our last call to action. So I'm going to take off this screen. I'm actually going to call Pat up to the stage. My buddy Pat, young credit from teachai.org. Very cool. We love our former teachers. And I've had the privilege over the last year, as I've been building my journey of AI for education, to be buddies with Pat, and then also to be a part, AI for Education as part of teachai.org, which is an enormously important initiative about this work. So Pat, my big thing, everyone here is answering the same question. What is your moonshot with AI in education? So Pat, you got it.
Amanda, and it's been a pleasure to be your buddy. I've learned so much from you. I want to thank Amanda Bickerstaff, all the other Amandas at AI for Education. I want to thank Daniel, and I want to thank Ashley Corey for having me here. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Yarn-Pradit. I'm talking to you from the East Coast of the US in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm the Chief Academic Officer of Code.org, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the idea that every student in every school should have the opportunity to learn computer science, and in this day and age, AI as well. So we've been doing work around AI in education for a while from the computer science lens. And recently, we kicked up this initiative called Teach AI, which is an initiative steered by Code.org, ETS, ISTE, Khan Academy, and the World Economic Forum. And the whole point of Teach AI is to guide education leaders and policymakers in this current age, and use this AI opportunity as a way of really rethinking education, kind of like what Amanda was just talking about. I'm going to go ahead and share some slides for you all so that I can start to talk about this particular dream I have, my moonshot. All right. So, like I said, I work for Code.org, and I lead an initiative called Teach AI. But before all of that, I was a computer science teacher. And this is actually a picture of me, a young me from 2013, with some students of mine. And it was a great honor to be teaching computer science at this school that let me do really amazing things with students, really innovative things. And I chose to teach computer science because I believe in empowering kids to become creators of world-changing technologies rather than just passive consumers of stuff marketed to them. And my kids designed apps and games for social causes. And that really drew kids in to computer science in a way that we never had before. We tripled the number of girls in computer science, and we overall brought in diversity in computer science programs at this school. So what kind of games were created? Games like Nashville 1960, where kids explored the idea of nonviolent conflict and actually created a game, a button mashing game, where you had to actually learn about the civil rights movement during that time and understand what the nonviolent conflict movement was all about, and then actually manage people who were protesting the laws at the time by sitting in at a diner and in seats that they weren't supposed to be sitting in. And so they had to build up courage by pressing, you had to mash buttons to build up the courage, but the courage would drop and things would happen to reduce the courage, and then you had to press it faster. So it's a fun button mashing game, and it was a cooperative game, actually. It could be two-player. But what was wonderful about it is kids learned about something that was really useful to them. Kids also created silly games like how to get a date with an environmentalist. And this was a lot of fun. It's like a choose your own adventure. And what happens is that it actually incorporated video, and someone would talk and then you would try to answer their questions so that you could eventually get a date with this environmentalist. So super silly games. And these were amazing experiences for kids. But to get to the technical level of being able to turn good ideas into apps and games, they needed at least 2 years of programming classes. And now, obviously, with generative AI and like plain old vanilla ChatGPT, 2 years is now more like 2 months or even 2 days. So if you don't know, obviously, we know that Gen AI can create text very easily from large language models, but that text also includes programming code in a variety of languages, in fact. So who here watching me right now hasn't had an idea for an app or a game that they were super excited about? All of you. All of you had some wonderful idea, yet you haven't had the technical capability to turn that idea into a product. And I know many of you believe that these are like the next billion-dollar ideas, and they might be. So in the end, so like the point here is to describe my moonshot, and my moonshot is that everyone in the world can now become or will become a maker of world-changing technologies or just community or even personal life-changing technologies with the assistance of generative AI. So I promised myself, folks, in this talk, because I don't normally give moonshot style talks. I actually do a lot of guidance work and policy work with state education agencies and ministries of education, alongside partners like AI for Education, but also like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, Amazon, AI EDU, and CCSSO, and a whole bunch of other organizations. Go to teachai.org if you want to see all the organizations that are part of TeachAI that together we educate leaders and policymakers. So that's my normal day job. So I'm not really used to like a moonshot kind of opportunity. And so this was actually kind of hard for me because I don't even feel like this is actually much of a moonshot, because we already have specialized platforms like PlayLab AI, which some of you all, I believe, have worked with just recently. And then there are other platforms like Poe, P-O-E, Hugging Face, everyone knows about that. And even, again, plain old vanilla ChatGPT allows you to create things that you were never able to create before on your own. I was at a session hosted by Stanford University at the recent ASU GSV AI Revolution show. So shout out to everyone else who was there. And that event was a prelude to the annual ASU GSV Summit. That event, the AIR show, was dedicated to K-12 educators. And so during one of these sessions, Stanford University brought together over 100 educators in this super packed room and taught them how to make their own chatbots for their own personal and professional purposes. Now, the idea of creating your own chatbot really has only existed for less than a year for like normal people. And it was amazing to see people get so excited about turning their ideas into reality, whether again for personal or professional uses. And it was actually quite beautiful. I took many pictures and I just soaked it in because I saw normal people, people who don't have a computer science background, utilizing computational thinking skills, design thinking, and just making in general to create these real useful products. Now imagine with this dream maker that it wasn't just chatbots that teachers were creating, but teachers could create anything. And actually, not just teachers, but everybody could create anything. And that's where the dream maker comes into play. I put a trademark on this. I have no idea whether someone's already making this kind of thing. More than likely, someone's working on it right now. And if you're a startup like that, making the everything, make everything bot, then good luck to you. For now, I consider this a moonshot because while we have like early platforms for making chatbots or maybe other things, my idea, my moonshot is that you can create anything from this and instantly share it with the entire world. Imagine all of you having that power. We have some of that power right now, but with advances in these models and advances in these platforms and tools, we're probably going to see this happen. So I call it the Dream Maker for now. It's not just about apps and games, but empowering everyone, including you and I, to be creators in this world. And hopefully we can make the world a better place because of this. So for more ideas like this, including more practical ones, Teach AI actually guides education leaders and policymakers to create the fertile environment so that we can have dreams like this actually come true. Unfortunately, right now in the US, there are only 9 states that provide any level of AI guidance. And Amanda and her team go all over the place with districts and states and all that, training teachers. And there just aren't enough outfits like that doing the work to provide AI guidance. So a bunch of us at Teach AI got together and created a toolkit. You can take a picture of that QR code or just go to teachai.org/toolkit to find that toolkit. You can use that to guide your school systems. It's a toolkit to create guidance, basically. And if you're into policy work, like at the district or state or country level, you can use this resource, which launched about 2 weeks ago. And you can find that at teachai.org/policy. It has a bunch of informational briefs for informing your colleagues and senior leaders, but it also has policy recommendations. And lastly, if you want to just learn more about LinkedIn, about AI, first off, you should follow Amanda. She's quite prolific, and if you haven't had enough of AI stuff from Amanda, you can also follow me as well. Click that QR code, follow me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all today, and I hope that this moonshot someday comes true.
Amazing, Pat. Thank you so much. Also, Pat has really upped his LinkedIn game. I just want to say he's doing a really good job. But I just want to say thank you so much, Pat. Let's give him all of the heart and emojis. He came out on a Saturday. He is an incredibly busy person, as he has really taken on this enormous amount of work with Pam on his team at teachai.org. Also, I heard you have a job opening. Maybe there's some cool people here that if you're looking to get into it even further with us. But I just want to say thank you, Pat. And I think the idea that we're all able to create, and it goes even further into chatbots, agents, but then it becomes students creating their own, I think is a lovely, lovely vision. So Pat, thank you again. Everyone give Pat a thank you, a huge thank you. And we're going to call up Samvi, our second speaker for the Innovate session. Thank you so much, Pat. And I have the pleasure again of inviting a student on the stage. So we are going to absolutely have to give her the most love. This is Samvi. I am so lucky. We did a webinar a couple weeks ago on like civics and democracy and generative AI. And Samvi was our student that I was connected to. And I was just absolutely blown away by her thoughtfulness. I know I wasn't the only one. And her just awareness of what this moment in time means from the perspective of a 19-year-old student, but also as a thinker ahead. And so Sami's going to give you a moonshot, but a very, like, in this case, it's going to be one in which we can get to pretty quickly. And I think it's one that's really important. So Sambi, thank you so much. You want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I can share my screen really quick while I introduce myself. But my name is Sanvi. I'm currently a sophomore at UC Berkeley, and I'm studying computer science and public policy there. I'm an undergraduate student, and I'm also the executive director of an organization called the Youth Power Project, which is focused on bringing more young people into civic spaces, particularly policy spaces. And I guess my kind of entrance into this was when I was in middle and high school. I was probably the most like civically apathetic person you probably could have ever met. I didn't really know how like government institutions worked. I was learning about it in school, but I was kind of learning about it more passively. And I think I also keenly remember, because I was in the 7th grade during the 2016 election, that there was a very overwhelming consensus between me and my peers that there's no room or reason for our civic engagement or our engagement in most civic or community processes. So apart from like just pre-registering to vote or volunteering, there didn't really seem like there was much that we could actually do to impact decision makers or reach decision makers at our school district or in the state or federally, and they felt very far away from us. But this kind of all changed for me when I was able to kind of like take some of the experiences that I had as a young kid and use that to inform certain policy measures that were going through the California state legislature, and learning how to leverage like these kinds of civic institutions in such a personal way as early as high school was absolutely transformative for me. And like being able to directly immerse myself in my community was just, and witnessing the reality of what I'd only otherwise really learned about in the classroom was absolutely transformational. So when I think about education, I really think about how that particular learning experience for me that wasn't traditional, like in the classroom, but being able to realize that like what I was learning in the classroom actually had weight and ground in the world around me. And so that got me really passionate about just getting other young people involved in civic spaces, and why I kind of have been kind of talking a lot about civic engagement and youth democratic participation in the context of the digital age, because so much of my generation's engagement with community or perception of community has been shaped by our digital civil discourse, which ultimately is very intertwined with education systems and also with technology that's been advancing. One other thing about me is that I'm the number one biggest ice cream fan. I always need a sweet treat at the end of every day. I love rainbow sprinkles. I put them on everything. I carry a box of rainbow sprinkles with me, so I don't have to pay an extra 50 cents to add my own toppings. Then I can add as many as I want. So yeah, I'm excited. As I was talking about before, feelings of inclusion amongst American citizens continue to deteriorate. And I can say that particularly with my generation, having gone through the pandemic and not having really witnessed like an election that wasn't so heavily publicized in the news or politicized. It's really hard for a lot of people my age, and something that I've noticed amongst my peers, to feel connected to the idea of community and to feel inclusion in the fullest sense. And, you know, we can say that a lot of people have been talking about how a substantial portion of Americans don't believe that they have a say in government. A lot of American citizens just do not see themselves trusting institutions around them. This statistic right here, just 18% believe that the government actually cares what the public thinks. But I do want to say that amongst my generation, there has been this interesting perception that we're very civically apathetic, but it's not that we're apathetic. In fact, I think more than ever, people in my generation are energized, are understanding and perceiving the issues around them, and care very deeply about those issues. It's about finding avenues to actually realize where that kind of engagement or that kind of care can be transformative from an educational and also from like a human context. So young people feel unprepared generally to participate in civic life and distrust institutions. A lot of young people say that they would want to take more action in their communities and be more ingrained in these different institutions and pay more attention in school if they had the opportunity to or saw a pathway for themselves to do so. But ultimately, what do we see young people turning to? We see them turning to online discussion forums, to online communities and digital platforms to find what they otherwise aren't able to or don't feel connected to in person. There have been a ton of benefits with like the movement online to talking about civics and talking about to even like connecting online through social media platforms. One being obviously the democratization of information. You're able to digest and consume information at a much quicker rate than ever before. You're able to perceive issues that are detached from you geographically at the drop of a hat when they happen in real time. You can connect with communities that aren't located near you. And that ties into a lot of people having a new safe haven for expression online, being able to find a place to connect with people who might share experiences as you that you might not otherwise have been able to meet, and also live a more authentic version of yourself in that sense. And finally, awareness and access to civic spaces. I think that social media has been like transformative in how people engage and organize on causes that they care about, and raising awareness on these problems. Not only are we able to access different kinds of information, different perspectives, but also different avenues for turning those lived experiences into tangible changes that can actually change your day to day. But at the same time, we've seen a few harms. I think mis and disinformation is the first one that comes to mind, and that's something a lot of people are talking about in the context of this election. Is how do you empower users to actually understand like what is and isn't real, and how to exercise their free speech responsibly. Second is toxic polarization. We've seen that a lot of algorithms online tend to reward content that is more politicized or more charged, and that creates a race to the top to create content that is polarizing or potentially harmful. And finally, limited comprehension of reality. I think this is a funny one that I always laugh when I look at this icon, but what I mean by that is social media is an echo chamber. Digital spaces are an echo chamber, and something that a lot of young people, especially the people that I talk to who are my age and currently students, that we find ourselves falling into that trap of being online, being chronically online, and really only viewing the world through the lens that we are receiving that information through this digital filter. And that has been an interesting debate. So what I really wanted to talk about with my moonshot is there are so many benefits to social media. There are so many benefits to digital civil discourse, particularly in the context of education. But how can we ensure that these platforms are actually able to realize these benefits while mitigating these harms? I think that we talk about that whole entire debate, that whole topic of how do we make social media better? Social media has been incredible. How do we make it realize its true potential? But we talk about that through different silos. We talk about it through the silo of education. We talk about that through the silo of policy. And then we also talk about it through the silo of technology. And obviously, with regards to AI-related harms, when we're talking about the way content online is classified, there's a huge debate about what bright line there is to actually classify that content. Should you actually penalize people if you're not sure the intent behind the misinformation that they're putting online? Or how do you limit the use of generative AI or manipulated media to misrepresent the actions of public figures and ultimately cultivate more distrust in institutions, right? Especially in the context of an election, how do you ensure that you're flagging content and disclosing when political ads feature AI-generated content? Also looking at different circuit breakers to flag posts that are fast spreading, because posts that are more polarizing tend to become viral more quickly. And finally, also ensuring that users have basic guidance on perceiving artificial versus authentic content. And we talk about media literacy, AI literacy, and information literacy. I think that's key. Users should definitely understand and be empowered to decide how they consume that content and how they perceive it. But obviously, due diligence from these platforms only works when users actually understand their obligations to interact responsibly. So that's kind of where I also think about education. It's kind of a cyclical concept. It's like civic engagement is key to your education, but education is key to ensuring that you can effectively be civically engaged. Cultivating responsible user engagement does begin in the classroom, where students are oftentimes first beginning to perceive their role as citizens in these kinds of forums. And I oftentimes see media literacy, AI literacy, and information literacy being talked about in the context of social sciences classes. But I think it's even more important that across the board on all subject matters that we're talking about what it means to behave responsibly and share information responsibly. How to interact with the new digital ecosystem where all this information is being shared. So our civics education, I think our education system more broadly, has to keep up with the transition from in-person to digital forums for civic dialogue and explore different dynamic opportunities for that kind of engagement. So that being said, I've kind of talked a lot about, education. I've talked about a little bit about technology and a little bit about policy too. I think policy kind of intersects all of this. But for me, I think what would be interesting for me as a student particularly is to see a more interdisciplinary forum to bring together technologists, to bring together students, to bring together educators into a more representative discussion on what effective user consultation and feedback integration can look like in social media platforms, and ultimately what the role of community institutions, what the role of educators, parents, etc., are in actually empowering young people, empowering users through education, transparency, and digital agency to make decisions and ultimately create that safer digital information ecosystem that we want. Because I think that when we're talking about healthy civic participation, that begins with creating trust. And creating trust begins with transparency and feeling that you can actually relate to the institutions that you're interacting on, and also that those institutions are acting in your greater net interest. So I'll close this off by saying that I like to refer to the term digital natives, i.e. young people. We keenly understand the harms and benefits associated with our digital engagement online, with the way that we learn. We know why we turn to certain platforms and how those impacts or the shifting nature of education has spilled over within our civic and daily lives. I can remember what my education was like before all my friends were on Instagram or on a phone. But when digital platforms can safely realize their fundamental intent, they can create these opportunities for trust and meaningful connection. And I think realizing that intent begins with actually consulting users and consulting young people in the design of these algorithms, in being able to selectively choose how these algorithms impact them, et cetera. I think the upcoming 2024 election season, and I know we just have been having some more political conversations recently about the role of social media at large. I think we're in a key moment right now. We have a key opportunity for these sectors to converge around these best practices for effective online engagement, and to ensure that we're able to I want all students to be able to achieve that kind of transformational educational experience that I had by being civically engaged, more community minded. So that being said, let's stop working in silos. This is a link to the Youth Power Project, which is the organization I work with. We've been doing a lot at this intersection and convergence, and there's my email for contact. But it was really great to have the opportunity to present to you all, and I really appreciate your time.
My dear, you can come up. Okay, first of all, how amazing are you? You are, and it's like, I think that when we get a little bit worried about like what's going to happen, the future is here, everybody, and we're in safe hands, especially if we listen to students. We made this space, and Zombie is a part of it, and we have to make sure, like you said, not having silos. So to have you here to be a part of this, we're going to have call to actions later, but my first call to action is, if you are not talking to students, whether it's Zombie or others, or even the student you wouldn't normally talk to, I promise you will learn something today. I promise you will learn something from them, regardless of what you think going in. So Zombie, thank you so much. Hanging out with us, being here live on your Saturday as a 19-year-old. It's amazing. We're so happy to have you and be part of this community.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Zombie. Okay, so now to our clip show. So we have a lot of great people. It's going to be a little bit international, and we're actually going to start with Alex Sarlin. If you know Alex is really great. He's actually one of the founders of EdTech Insiders. He's going to bring a really unique, I kind of, when I put this moonshot to him, I think I had in my head what I thought it would be, but I really love the way he's gone. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pull the video up. Here is Alex. I will drop in Alex's LinkedIn profile as we go, so you don't have to worry about that. And let's get it. Go, Amanda.
My name is Alex Sarlin, and I am the founder and CEO of EdTech Insiders, as well as the head of discovery program at Cambiar Education. I work with education technology companies of all kinds, of all sizes, and I'm really excited to speak to this AI Summit today. I've also worked at a number of places in the past that have informed my opinion on AI and where we're all going. So let's jump in. I'm curious what you all think of this. So I want to zoom out a little bit as we start talking about this, and just start by talking about traditionally how we think about education. This is sort of my personal definition. Everybody has their own. I think it's really about, knowledge, skills, and abilities, but also motivation, also metacognition, understanding how you're doing, what you want to learn, how well you need, when you need help, and this concept of durable skills, right? Collaboration, critical thinking, all sorts of things, all in service of life goals for yourself personally. This is my definition, right? Mental fulfillment, contribution to society, success in life, opportunities, access to opportunities. This is sort of how I think about education. And this is going to inform, everything you see today. You might have a very different definition. And in this way, we've traditionally tried to serve this goal with a lot of different systems. We have early childhood systems, pre-K, kindergarten, primary school. We have secondary school and high schools. We have post-secondary universities, professional schools, and lots of adult training of different kinds, depending on what profession you're in or what you'd like to learn. So that's great. It's done pretty well. There's some really amazing things about our education systems, but there's also a lot of things we haven't quite cracked. And what I'm interested in terms of AI is how we can sort of blur the boundaries and really move forward with what education really is. So let's think about it a little broader, right? So everything we just talked about is kind of formal education, right? It's formal education, it's schooling, it's university, it's corporate training, it's systemic, it tends to be linear, it tends to be age related. There's also a lot of informal education that happens all the time, right? Young children are learning language. Young children are learning to do physical things. They're learning games. They're learning to socialize. High school students are learning to socialize in a whole new way as they enter adolescence. They're learning sports. They're doing drama. There's just a lot happening in both your school life and your personal life that you would count as informal, targeted learning. It's much more personalized. It's much more optional. People can choose which of these to do. And of course, that doesn't end in high school or college. Throughout our lives, we engage in informal learning. That's everything from picking up a book at a bookstore to taking a yoga class to learning a new language, on your own, all amazing things to do. Then there's sort of this entertainment world, right? There's, things that pull us away from education, games, cartoons, popular music, popular literature, podcasts. Adults spend so much time listening to podcasts or watching Netflix. But here's the thing, you could consider entertainment distracting, isolating, addictive. A lot of people do, especially when it comes to things like social media. But you could also frame it a pretty different way, right? Everything we do is learning. This is how our brains work. We're learning all the time. We are always learning. You can't go an hour of your life without learning something. So the fact that all of these entertaining things, the whole world of entertainment that we engage in voluntarily, that's learning too. And that's actually very, very exciting type of learning. It's motivational. People really want to be doing it. It's everywhere. I imagine some of you see some of the logos on this. You might plug in your own versions and say, yeah, this is what I'd rather be doing right now. I'd rather be watching the Netflix show I'm in the middle of, or listening to my favorite podcast, right? Like a murder podcast or whatever you're into. So that's interesting to me. And, we've talked a lot about how, if we can meet students where they are, and by students, I mean students of all ages, if we can meet them where they are, maybe we can sort of bridge some of the motivational gaps. And we've tried this in many ways for many generations, and we've had some successes, but we're not always that good at it, right? And so let's think about what AI can do here. AI basically accelerates our ability to do almost anything. You can ask it to help you ideate. You can help it to ask you write. You can help it to ask you create videos. You can ask it to entertain you. You can ask it to tell you jokes. You can ask it to tutor you. You can ask it to just make you feel better if you're feeling down or frustrated. It can matchmake. It can connect people to one another. It can translate. That's a huge thing that AI can do. It can make anything more accessible in an almost instantaneous way. At heart, what AI is really doing is making new ideas. It's making new content. It's changing the format of existing content. And it's just creating things new, wholesale, out of nothing, on demand, based on whatever we'd like it to do. And this is really the heart of where I get excited about what this can do for education. So some of you may have heard of this project. This is a project out of UC Irvine in California. They call it Fraction Ball. And the idea of it, it's a brilliant idea. The idea of it is, what if you took a activity people are doing for fun? It's social, it's collaborative, it's something people want to be doing. It's basketball. It's basketball on the playground. And what if you superimposed on it this idea of fractions learning? So depending on where you take a shot from the court, you're going to get, instead of 2 or 3 points, you're going to get a quarter of a point. a half a point, 3/4 of a point. And this on the side here is the scoreboard. So when somebody hits a half point, somebody, you're measuring that they're going a half point up. Maybe it's 3/4 of a point up, and you're playing a game that way. Incredibly interesting idea, and the early studies have been pretty successful on this. You see people getting fractions learning, which is, as we all know, one of the biggest bottleneck subjects for a math understanding. People are learning this in a way that feels much more casual, much more fun, much more interesting, and much more sort of intrinsically motivational. So this is a great idea, but whether or not you've heard of this, I bet you can't name 10 more ideas that have this level of elegance in bringing together what people want to be doing and what people, have to be doing to stay with the standards, to get to the next level of education, to open up our opportunities to college, or to even just advance a grade level. The formal systemic education and really casual, entertainment-based, open-ended learning don't often come together. So let's look at these two sides of the education spectrum. Could we put some of these ideas together? Could we take, multiplayer games or apps that kids absolutely love doing and use it to teach core subjects like reading and decoding? Yes, this has been tried a lot. If you go to the App Store right now, you probably find 200 apps that say they're going to teach you decoding through an exciting game or gamification. But do they work? Not quite yet. Are they really, really fun, or are they really, really proving out the educational values? Not quite yet. We don't know. I haven't seen a lot saying that there's, any one answer that is truly working here that hits both sides of this. It's as fun, as motivational, as exciting as the best games, but as educational as the best educational experiences. Now, this doesn't mean replacing a teacher. It just means creating new experiences that can put the pieces together. Could we teach high school algebra through social media? And not only social media, but the type of social media that gets people very excited about social media, the type of social media that makes teenagers spend the average of hours a day on TikTok or Instagram. We consider this a distraction. We consider this pulling people away from education. And right now, it usually is. It's still learning, but certainly not education. Could it be? Could it be made in service of actual formal education and valuable outcomes? Could we teach career readiness or skills training through the generation of Netflix shows on demand that are binge-worthy, that are so much fun, that have your favorite actors, that have amazing stories, but when you turn it on, and you're actually learning the things you need to know? Is it possible? I would say it is now. I think that's the moonshot of AI. I think the moonshot of AI, personally, is that this dream we've had as educators for generations of putting together things students actually love and want to do, regardless of whether they're being guided or pushed to do it, and the type of learning that we know is going to be really good for them, important for them, for their life outcomes. Could these things come together? I think with AI, they can. So want to also pitch one thing that I'd love everybody to see. This is totally free. We don't get any money from this, but we've been trying our best to collect as many AI tools in education that are out there as we can, and put them into one database. We have about 350, and we're adding them every day. They're all filterable, and you can sort them by age range, by what they do, whether they're tutors, whether they're STEM-based. The QR code on this screen will take you right to the database. Great thing to keep an eye on. And, we're only scratching the surface of the dream that we just outlined here. But it's, as AI can create videos, as it can create games, as it can create, instructions for new experiences and translate everything, I think we're getting close to this vision. Thanks so much.
So Alex, amazing, so cool. Like, who is going to go back to their schools and actually redo the whole basketball court? Who's doing that? I feel like we all need to do that. And I just want to say thank you to Alex. Alex is a good friend that we've also met through this process. He has an amazing podcast, and they're really trying to do more and more with teachers and leaders. So I think it's so great to have it. And I love this idea of it's got to be where kids are, man. We got to use this new technology to meet kids where they are. Engagement has to go up. This is an opportunity to do that. So next one we have coming to the stage is actually another good buddy that is going to be probably the person that taught me how to LinkedIn. So if you know us through LinkedIn, you can thank Mike Yates. We had this big walk and talk almost a year ago, and he was so good at it. If you want someone that is going to deeply make you think, this is the person. If you are not following Mike, you are not getting the hard questions, the big talk. And so we're going to go over to Mike now and listen to his moonshot.
Yo, what's going on? My name is Mike Yates. I am a part of the Reinvention Lab at Teach for America. I lead our AI effort at the lab, which I'm really, really excited to do at this moment in time in history. And I'm excited to share with you what my moonshot for AI in education is. I think my moonshot is that we use AI to finally reinvent the way that we do learning. And this will happen in 3 different ways. Number 1 is access. And this means that we're finally turning the tables around with respect to emerging technology. The people who were once constituents will become the builders and the ones who shape the strategies and the moments and the way that this technology will eventually look. We're putting power in the hands of the user as opposed to the software company or the software developer. For the first time, maybe in human history, to get the most out of an emerging technology, the only thing that you really need to know is English. So this means that we, organizations like the Reinvention Lab, AI EDU, AI in Education, ASU, GSV, EdTech Insider, all of these organizations that we always see at conferences and whatnot, it's our responsibility now to put the education in the hands of the people, being educators and students, to give them power by teaching them how to build their own AI solutions and tools instead of how to leverage what is being built for them or at them. So I really see access as us transforming who is in the driver's seat of these emerging technologies and innovation. That's way number 1. Way number 2 is radical personalization. I have been tinkering around with AI and personalization since before it was cool in school, and every innovation that has excited me in the school world for about the last 5 to 7 years has something to do with the personalization of learning, not necessarily the individualization, but the personalization of learning. I had the great pleasure of helping to build a school where we leaned heavily on adaptive learning software to replace direct instruction. We did not replace the teacher, we did not replace the school building, but we replaced direct instruction by having a bunch of students working on their own pace, on their own subject, on their own task, all in the same building. We saw what radical personalization could mean, leveraging AI before we had Gen AI. What this means is that you can use platforms like Khan Academy and Khanmigo. You can lean on literacy platforms like Literal, which is smartly using AI within their platform to continue to help students love to read. You can lean on data, like deep data reporting from Newsella, that can help you pinpoint exactly where a student is, what help they need, how you're going to intervene as an educator or a parent. It means that we're using this emerging technology of generative AI to get more data points, insights, and personalized learning experiences for our students. I think what's really important with this radical personalization is that these developers and companies understand that AI for the sake of AI actually means nothing. The example I want to give you, and maybe I would call this the exemplar, is this app that I mentioned earlier. It's called Literal. Literal is an app that once took books and translated the books into a text message interface. They found that this presentation of text message interfaces was helping young people learn to love to read. A book wasn't cutting it. The assigned lecture material wasn't cutting it. A PDF wasn't cutting it. They needed a different format. Well, over the years, Literal has continued to reach more and more students with this simple innovation. And they just pressed go recently on some new AI features. And as I was sitting with Lawton, who's one of the Literal founders, and he's telling me about the AI features that they're implementing, the first thing that came to mind for me, and I said it out loud to him, was, man, this is not just AI for AI's sake. I commend Literal and companies like them that waited and watched and learned and really thought deeply about what their users needed and how they could apply generative AI within their platform and the innovation that they were already building. So I hope, in terms of radical personalization, we actually see companies start to wait and to watch and to intelligently and contextually apply generative AI to the innovation that they were already working on before this generative AI hype wave came. And that leads me to my last point. I think if we do access and we do radical personalization well, I actually think legitimately that we might, for the first time in human history, see the real reinvention of learning. We might see a system where students and parents and teachers all have a different level of power than they have currently in today's system. We might see a system where parents and teachers can share insights in live time, where students can also see those insights, and where all three parties can use those to create the exact learning plan that not only a student needs, but that interests a student to pull them through the learning experience. I think generative AI has the potential to force us to ask these really, really hard questions of ourselves as educators, as parents, as teachers, as students. Like, what is the role of a teacher? What is the role of a student? Like, what does it mean to be an expert in a world where not just information, but highly contextualized and personalized information is available to you in the palm of your hand, or on your headset, or in your glasses, or on your goggles? Like, what do all those questions mean? I think if we get down to answering those questions, then we really may see, for the first time, in a system that is over 100 years old without major change or innovation, we might see for the first time the actual reinvention of learning. A system that looks unrecognizable to people of the past. One that, dare I say, would make certain parties uncomfortable. One that I think students would thrive and love to come to school in. One that I think parents would feel safe to send their kids to. One that I think educators would love going to work in. So this is my big moonshot moment. I think it's about access. I think it's about radical personalization. And I think it's about answering the hard questions to, for the first time ever, truly reinvent learning. Hey, thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Amanda, you're amazing for putting this on. Appreciate y'all. Peace. We got work to do.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Mike. And if you didn't get like jazzed by that one either, I mean, gosh, I feel so lucky that we have such great people around us and that I can call these people friends as well. But Mike, I mean, just someone that has been pushing since he was a school leader to really make school work for every kid, I think is so important. You can actually, Mike has a big like group of kids behind him. He's got 4 kids, and so you can hear them in the background, but he truly cares. And this idea of radical personalization, but we agree, one of our moonshots is that school becomes better for once. So it's just so good to have him join. And next we're going to our international component of our Innovator Ed Talk. We've tried to keep this as diverse as possible. And Philippa Hardman, Dr. Philippa Hardman, is one of the first people I met along with Mike. And she is such a stunning person. I cannot tell you how much I love Philippa. She's one of our first ever webinars. This is when we were little babies, where we had like, I had a couple thousand LinkedIn followers. So she took a chance on us, and she's got her moonshot. And if you do not follow Phil, I'm going to put her information in the chat. You will after this talk.
I am Phil. I am an AI Ed researcher and educator, and I'm super excited to share with you today my vision, my moonshot, if you like, for AI and education. So in my view, when it comes to AI and education, we have a choice as humans between 2 potential paths, which I think lead to 2 quite different potential futures for the education system. So the first path, as I see it, is one that we've actually already started to travel down. It's a path where we use AI to automate, to accelerate, and to scale the education system that we already have, the system as we know it, the system that we have had and scaled globally for hundreds of years now. And by taking this AI education path, I think we create a future where we have used AI to solve some of the most pressing, hair on fire problems that educators and students around the world experience and struggle with every single day. So in this future, imagine this place where AI has liberated teachers from high effort and low value tasks. Every single day, AI is automating grading. It is writing first drafts of long and maybe complex reports. AI is analyzing student data all of the time, and all of the time making smart recommendations for personalized content and interventions. And then maybe it's even like implementing those recommendations. Maybe it's even generating very rapidly personalized content and interventions in the moment, in seconds. And so in this future, I think for teachers, the education system is significantly more efficient. It's definitely more streamlined than it's ever been before. AI is a co-pilot, and it's helping to speed us up, to oil the machine. I think also in this world, it's not just about speed, it's also an amount about quality. So I think in this potential AI future, teachers' work is also much more data-driven. And as a result, teachers are, I think, more likely than ever before, certainly than they are right now, to optimize their student outcomes. And I think, meanwhile, for students in this particular potential future, thanks to AI, their learning content is significantly more personalized, is more relevant, maybe as a result is more engaging than it's ever been before. So putting myself in the shoes of that student, as a student, I get exactly the content that I need and the support that I need in the exact format, and you can imagine in the exact moment that I need it. I also get more feedback than ever before on my work, and we know that more feedback equals generally more learning and more achievement. And both I and my parents perhaps receive more regular and granular reports on my progress and performance than ever before. And all of this sounds great, right? And on some level, it really is great. On some level, the path of AI that we've already started to travel down, where we use AI predominantly to speed up and to personalize the existing learning process, has enabled us to solve some of the most wicked problems in education, particularly those around teacher workload and student engagement and achievement. So there is some good to come from that path, but I also believe that there is a catch, and it's this. I think by using AI to automate and scale the existing education system, we are distracted. We're excited, but we're distracted from a potentially much more powerful and transformative use case of AI in education. And here's what I mean by this. Well, the established kind of chalk and talk model of education that we have designed and delivered globally for hundreds of years, and which we are now currently using AI to scale, is broken. It is suboptimal. So there is decades of research to show that alternative, much more active, problem and project-based models of education and kind of instructional strategies and pedagogies are significantly more effective at driving student engagement and increasing student achievement. So the headline here is that as much as we are feeling the benefits of AI right now, if we fail to zoom out and see the bigger picture, if we only use AI to personalize and streamline and scale the established model of education, we will scale and bake in a broken system which fails to optimize as much as we could for the motivation, the engagement, and ultimately, I think, the achievement and the life chances and the life expectancy of all students globally. And in this alternative future, we would use AI not to oil the machine as we know it, but actually to rebuild the machine. We would use AI as a tool which has the potential to build a whole new education system, which is not just more effective in terms of student achievement, but also, and I think very, very importantly, student equity. So we can use AI, I think, to help to close the education gap. So as research has shown, more active learning methods, pedagogies cater to a broader range of learning needs and preferences than this traditional chalk and talk approach that we're currently using AI to scale. So the headline here is that when we shift to a more active and innovative learning model and learning system, including, I think, and this is really important, more authentic systems of assessment which progresses beyond quizzes, knowledge checks, essays, and exams, what we see, and we know this for a fact, what we see is increased levels of student engagement and achievement for all students, but especially for those who have underachieved in the traditional kind of chalk and talk setting. So I guess in conclusion, the big takeaway and my moonshot here is that the impact of AI on education depends more on humans than it does on technology. So often I am asked if and how AI will impact education. And I think usually people expect the answer to be more about the technology. But in fact, my answer is always that we need to look to the humans. So while, of course, the technology matters, and I think AI is a groundbreaking technology, and I think it will inevitably change the way that we design, deliver, evaluate, and assess in the education context. So while like the technology is there and it matters, but what really matters is what we, the humans, decide to do with that technology. And so there is a potential future where we use AI to solve some of the most wicked hair on fire problems in education, perhaps even use it to eradicate education inequality. But there is also a very real potential future where AI simply shores up a suboptimal education system, and with it all of the inequities and suboptimal levels of engagement and achievement that we have kind of inherited from this particular model, this particular approach. So I guess my big takeaway is that ultimately the impact of AI on education will depend much more on the visions and the aspirations and the politics, I think, of human beings than it will ever on the specific technology. Thank you so much for your time and energy. I'm Phil. I am an AI education researcher and educator. And if you want to learn more from me, please give me a follow on LinkedIn. I have a large and brilliant community. Please join us over there to talk about all things AI and education. And you can also check out my Substack blogs and my AI education bootcamp, which I run every month. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Amazing, Phil. And there you go. We've dropped her information in the channel. Told you if you didn't follow Phil, now you definitely do. So, we talk about this so much. I cannot agree with her more of this idea of we cannot reinforce existing practice. We have to reimagine, and it has to be intentional. I absolutely love this idea that the technology itself, the same thing that Mike said, is nothing really. It's how we use the technology, how we build the technology, and how we teach the technology that's going to make the difference here. So our very last one is coming up with Aura Tanner. So Aura is amazing. We haven't had her on a webinar yet, but we will. And so Aura is going to she actually was one of the founders of AI EDU, and now is doing some really cool things at a Black Unicorn, including she does like a AI comedy show. So AI and education comedy show. So I'll drop her information in the channel. And this is our last one. And then we will have done our Innovate session. So there we go. Hold on.
Hello, global educators. I am Aura Tanner, CEO of Black Unicorn Education, where we make tech make sense by any creative means necessary. I am so excited to be here with you today at the AI for Education Summit. I want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to Amanda Bickerstaff and her team. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my moonshot idea. Let's jump right in. The name of my moonshot idea is called AI Dreams Hub, and I'm excited to share it a little bit more with you about it today. So I do AI literacy. I do it in informal settings. It's more for general audiences. And I notice that when I do my training, that the minority small business owners, college students, the various people I'm training, they're able to take what I have taught them about AI, immediately apply it, and see results, whether that's productivity in their jobs. I've gotten lots of testimonials about that, whether they're able to even start or create a new business or see more sales. The same thing does not happen in the K through 20 classroom. There are long timelines between when the students learn about technology in the classroom and between the economic benefits that they observe in their own lives from applying that knowledge in real life. What that looks like is you might be an elementary school teacher. You're teaching your students about artificial intelligence, what it is, how it works, what it can do, helping them with their work. They're in elementary school for 6 years, so they're not going to be going to the workforce anytime soon. They go on to middle school. And in the middle grades, they're learning more tools, they're learning more skills, how to use AI responsibly, how to use it to solve problems. And then that's 2 to 3 years, they move on to high school. They still haven't, done anything with the knowledge outside of creating projects. They may have started, some type of things within their communities. They end up going on to university. However, it's not until much later where they reap the economic rewards of all the AI or any other technology that they've learned about once they're in a job or career in the workforce. And if they started in kindergarten, that could be almost 20 years later, close to 20 years later, when they are reaping benefits from all of their training. What if there was a way to use artificial intelligence where students didn't have to wait? What if, just like the entrepreneurs and the employees that I'm working with, they could see results and they could see benefits and returns sooner? This is where we get to my moonshot idea. It's called AI Dreams Hub. And I love acronyms, so I made this one up and I'm kind of proud of it. And DREAMS stands for AI-driven roles for economic advancement of marginalized students. The people that I'm working with, I'm here in the United States, are mostly in Black communities, Latino, people with disabilities. I've been doing a lot of trainings for people who are over 65. So for our students, we want them to be able to have access not just to the training and the knowledge and the skills, but also seeing a return on that knowledge. Basically, what my moonshot does is it takes AI, marries it with using AI to complete job roles and tasks so that students can see near-term economic advancement. That means they are getting paid, they are seeing money come into their accounts, come into their families, because of what they are learning in the classroom. What does that look like? That looks like schools, faith-based organizations, community centers, other areas within a community being the Dream Hub site. So they will provide a lot of times they already have devices, they have infrastructure, it's a meeting place. They could also have staff, maybe even volunteers. So that's what they would provide. And then they would partner with businesses. Businesses are the ones who have the funding, they have the capital. They would actually pay for students to complete these different tasks. And these are tasks that they actually need done for the operations of their business. They also would be able to provide mentors for the students. And remember, this is outside of the traditional school day. This way, the students, they're not bound by the standards. They're able to have the time to tinker, to problem solve, figure things out, problem solving, multi-generational learning. And then, of course, we have motivated students who are showing up in these venues to do the work with these. And this is a recipe for students thriving. What they would be doing for these AI-driven roles are things that employers need done. Right now, 91% of employers, they want incoming employees to have experience with generative AI tools. And businesses are normally using AI in 3 areas right now. That's in communications, in content production, and in consumer experience. So our students would be using AI to create newsletters and graphics. These are things that are needed by companies to do their social media, to use AI to create chatbots that will be used by customers of these companies, as well as using AI to program apps and build websites. These are all real skills, but these are also things that companies need done and they're willing to pay for. They can also get into the using AI to create art, music, and videos for various startups and companies. And a very important skill I believe in is research. Teaching our students how to use research. This can be very beneficial for creating reports for these companies. Some students may even go on to build prompt libraries, prompt databases that can then be used, and they would be compensated for this. And as a result of all of this, learning all these skills, doing it for real world situations, some students may decide, I want to do this on my own, for myself. So we would be helping to launch a next generation of AI entrepreneurs. So the big takeaways for my moonshot idea, AI Dreams Hub, is that this would create near-term economic rewards while it complements what's being done in the classroom. The students are getting the skills. Now they don't have to wait until they graduate from high school. They can now get paid now. It's also facilitating innovation in K through 20 education. A lot of times there's not that ability or time to innovate or go on ideas because of standards, there's testing, there's curricula and timelines that have to be followed in K through 12 and in higher education. But now these AI Dreams Hubs would allow them to basically be huge application centers for what they're learning in the classroom. This also is huge for workforce preparedness. As I said, 91% of employers want students having generative AI skills, and we would be making our students, especially those from marginalized communities, highly competitive in the workforce. Also, we're bringing about equity of opportunities. Right now, students who are more likely to be using AI are from more wealthier and affluent schools and areas. Now, because we're building these AI Dreams Hubs inside of marginalized communities, we're bringing it to them. They don't have to travel anywhere. So now they can take access of these opportunities. And finally, there will be huge community impact, especially economic impact. Right now, 333 million young people under the ages of 18 are living in extreme poverty around the world. So my AI Dreams Hub moonshot idea would help to eliminate poverty in areas where it's most needed. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to my moonshot idea. If you want to learn more about the work that I'm doing, you can go to blackunicorneducation.com. You can also follow me, keep up with what I'm doing on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, and then hope you enjoy the rest of the summit.
Amazing. Okay, we did it, everybody. How amazing was that group? Come on. Like, again, like the amazing amount of like thought, and everyone took a different approach. I will be honest, I think I scared people a little bit because we haven't really done the imagination part yet. And even though you could hear from everybody, like it actually like took a lot of cognitive load in a very busy time. So I just really appreciate everyone that was a part of this. But the great news is, everybody, is that we actually have a lot more for you to look at after. So we have this awesome playlist. There we go. Sorry, couldn't find it, but we have our awesome playlist that we're going to continue to add to. We'll have a The one from the showcase this morning will be up for next week, but you can actually see we have the 4 that we did today. And then we've got Vriti Saraf, we've got Christian Talbot from MSA, we've got Daniel Lopez is a really, he really knows his stuff, especially around the technology and education. We've got Isabel Howe from Stanford, who is such an amazing person, just an amazing person, but also as someone at Stanford, which has been a leader in AI and now AI in education, she's really good to listen to. If you love Saba, if you know Saba, she's doing a great job as well. And then Lance is going to be our higher ed voice. So these are here. I'm going to drop this into the channel. And then I'm also going to just share what's happening next. So I'm just going to show you guys what's going on. We have a 10-minute break. Last break of the day. We're in the final stretch. We still have hundreds of people here with us today. But what we're going to do is our ideation session. You just heard from thought leaders, but what we care about the most is each of you. So what we're going to ask you to do is grab some materials. You can have paper or a pen. I probably only have paper and pen because I'm like a 10-year-old, but I know that like Corey and Ivan have colored pens and markers and Post-its and tape, whatever you need. But the ultimate goal of this is that you're going to get your hands on and your brains on. So as much as your hands on is your brains on. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, come back in 10 minutes. And then the one thing I'm going to ask though is that at the end of this session, we're going to get asked for your feedback, but I want part of your feedback to actually tell us what your big idea is. We want to hear from you. So everyone take a little bit of time. The networking tables are open, and then we'll get started in 10 minutes. I'll see you all soon.